as he regular and looking like, really, you want common sense? So we're going for a change.
Which Benedict?
We're going for a change today, Benedict. Yes. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
On what was supposed to be a sort of an averagey summer day, and it's absolutely sweltering in London, isn't it?
It's I've just given up. You know, is it global warming? Is it global cooling? Are things staying the same? Do we just live on an island nation that has quite temperate climates that sometimes swing over 4 years?
You do insist on wearing a suit, and we do love your efforts.
Well, we built an empire based on wearing wool suits in tropical climates. So you know, we gave it away when we started wearing linen and things like that.
You think linen was the beginning of the downfall of Western civilization?
That and cultural Marxism, yes. The two things.
And what have the Romans ever done for us?
Yes,
anyway,
exactly.
So much to talk about today. Now, the question I want to put to you, and again, always get in touch about anything we're talking about. Love to get your thoughts on air. But particularly I want to ask you about the 7 Labour MPs, John McDonnell, and a load of the usual squad, basically the commie, there should be in the Communist
Zarah, Sultana
Party.
And 6 others.
Yes, you know the usual awkward squad who just sort of constantly bleat on about how everyone is poor. We need to give, and all the rich people need to give all their money to the poor people, and in no way ever question why some people perhaps might need financial help who don't really need it. But anyway, usual awkward squad. They've been suspended for 6 months by Keir Starmer for voting against the government. They voted for an amendment to scrap the 2-child benefit cap. I want to know your reaction, because it is bizarre that actually Labour, until they were in office, were calling for the 2-child benefit cap to be scrapped. They called it hideous, horrendous, absolutely terrible for child poverty. There's some hints that they might think about going ahead with scrapping it in the future. But again, there's a huge multi-billion-pound cost for doing that every year. But I also want to know your thoughts in relation to what Alan Milburn has had to say. He was standing there with Liz Kendall, the new Work and Pensions Secretary, at an event yesterday, where he was talking about how long-term sick need to be forced to seek work. Liz Kendall got a bit, we want more carrot than stick, was what she was saying. But haven't we had enough carrot? And when there are actually masses of job vacancies, isn't it a bit clue that when someone says they want to work and there are job vacancies, that when they don't actually take a job, maybe they don't want to work and need to be forced to? I want to hear your thoughts on all of this. What is your reaction, particularly on those MPs being suspended, but also on the 2-child benefit cap? Should it be scrapped? Get your thoughts in. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can WhatsApp the same number. You can text on 87222, and you can get in touch on X at TalkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs 1 standard network rate message. Let's get to your thoughts on this, Benedict, because, I mean, first of all, in terms of the politics of this, this is the King's speech. It has not happened for, I think it's only once before that a King's speech, King or Queen's speech, has been voted down in an amendment that anyone has rebelled against that from the winning side, for goodness sake. They've only just won. But Keir Starmer's got 180 working majority. Does it matter whether 7 Labour rebels vote against him or not? I
think it does. This is an issue of confidence in the government, ultimately. And, it doesn't matter if you've won a 180-seat majority, it is about the confidence. And actually, if off the bat you allow people to start being awkward, then you set the tone for the rest of your parliament. Quite aside from the individuals who have been suspended, there were lots of Labour MPs were briefing to journalists saying, oh, well, we don't like the way that the whips are handling this, a lot of pressure is being applied. And the point is, well, yes, of course they are, because they understand, being more senior members of the party, this is how it goes. You cannot, under any circumstances, suggest that there is no or not enough faith in your own government, having just, given that you're supposed to be presenting unity to the country after all the infighting, it is incredibly selfish, actually, to not understand that your pet project is not more important than a Labour government if you are on the left.
Well, but again, Labour said they want to get rid of this this cap. They think it's really unfair. I have to say, I find it absolutely extraordinary that people are still arguing about this. This is not child benefit, by the way. Child benefit that pretty much everyone, I think, unless you've got a pretty high salary, you're really a top earner, you get a sum of money for your kids. This is the top up money you get on top if you're in low income. It's £3,455 a year. So it's almost £3,500 that people are given for each child. Now, any child born after 2017, so they said, give people notice, the deal. It's not kids that have been born, before. Child is born after that time, then you are not eligible to get any more benefits for the third and any subsequent children. Here's the thing. If you are rich, you can have as many kids as you want. I know people who've got 4 kids in private school. How the heck? what are they earning that they can afford to do that? And, right. But you know what? They're not costing anyone anything. And frankly, we have an issue with not enough children being born. So go for it. If you can afford it, great. most people who are working, whether they are, middle-class professionals or whether they are, you're working as a hospital porter, you're doing, really, good, solid, respectable work, but, you're not on good pay. These people across the board can't afford to have more than 2 kids. I know so many people who said, we can't afford the extra bedroom. When they get, if you give can't have kids sharing. Teenagers, if they're boys and girls, you're not going to get given one unless you're in a council house, are you? We couldn't afford to ever go on holiday. We couldn't afford the cost of the maternity leave and things like that. It's not an option for a lot of people. The only people it is an option for is people who are on benefits, because you do get given a bigger home and you do get more benefits. Is it not right that we say, when you make a choice to have more children, when you are not able to actually look after the current children you've got, that it's you that should pay the penalty rather than other people who often... They're having to work and pay taxes to look after their own children.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say that the system as it is incentivises... This might sound a little harsh. It incentivises the wrong people to have more children. It should not be the case that people who already cannot support themselves or their children, and who likely, because of the circumstances that they are in, those children will find themselves in the same situation. It is wrong to expand that portion of the population that is dependent on those who physically cannot afford to produce more people who statistically will support themselves and their own children.
I would actually say it's actually immoral. It is immoral to make people who are working and making all the right decisions and looking after them, paying tax, to force them to pay for the people who have offended. But also we've got this whole thing, it's like, we're told, well, it's the poorest, it's the children who lose out. Yes, but it's the parents who are doing that. It's not the state doing that, it's them. Here's the thing, if you haven't got enough money to support 2 kids, don't have a 3rd, 4th or a 5th. You've actually got this concentrated in particular, let me say, particular communities. You've got feckless people on all sides. We've got particular communities, particularly among Bangladeshi, Pakistani communities, where it's routine. We're told it's cultural difference. You can have your cultural difference, but you don't get to ask me to pay for your cultural difference. I'm sorry. If you want to have a load of kids, then get a better job and pay for them. It is as simple as that. I just find it extraordinary, the hand-wringing over this. People make choices. When people make bad choices, then I'm sorry, I don't know why everyone else has to pay for it. You know what, if you really can't feed your kids, we'll take your kids into care for you. Or, here's the thing, why doesn't mum stop having kids? She can then probably go back to work or get a job ever for the first time. And why doesn't dad work a few more extra hours if he wants to have all those kids? Because that's what the rest of us do.
Yeah, and this is it's always framed as, well, we have a demographic crisis, we aren't having enough children. And I'm afraid to say it is the question, which is, do you want to be having more children who will always be, statistically, dependent on the state?
The children of unemployed people, by the way, when there are millions of jobs available,
and it's multi-generational.
The chances of those kids statistically growing up to be contributors to society are very low indeed.
We're at a stage now where it is multi-generational, not just 1 or 2 generations, where we have 3, 4, 5 generations of people who have always been on benefits. And now we can argue about the root causes of that, deindustrialisation, whatever, but actually the answer to that is not incentivising those people to stay in that loop.
Exactly, absolutely. Well, this all ties in with what Alan Milburn was saying, and he's a former health secretary under the Blair government. He said yesterday in his statement when he was alongside Liz Kendall, the new Work and Pensions Secretary, that the long-term sick should be forced to seek work. And you can see the sort of, this is a bit uncomfortable. It's not that. He doesn't even go far enough. Seek work. Yeah, I mean, you are required already to seek work to get many benefits. But the reality is, I'm sorry, seeking work means absolutely nothing. You can go through the motions. We've had employers who've got in touch who said, look, they have people who deliberately put the wrong mobile number on their application, or, they come job interview, they deliberately flunk the interview so they don't get the job. But they've shown that they're seeking work. A friend of mine who works in the benefits office, she sat for 2 decades sitting there, behind the glass screen, with people at the job centre. When they come in and they look, I've been made redundant, what do I do? I need to sign on. And I said, well, how can you tell the people who really want to work and people who don't? She said, it's really simple. You don't see the people who really want to work again. They sign on and they never come back again because they find a job, they take any job, as I think most people... I don't think most of our audience would do that. That's what I would do. I'd sweep the streets. I don't understand why people think any job is beneath them if it pays the wages, pays the rent, and feeds your kids. But to say they need to seek job, we have this expanding issue with millions of people of working age who are perfectly capable of working. I'm sorry you've got anxiety. But I'm sorry that I've got anxiety about the fact that you're not making a net contribution.
Yeah, and it's to think that we then have all that money that is going on what is effectively an unuseful portion of the population who have no intention of being useful. But then, on the other hand, we are told by our governments we absolutely must import millions of people to do the jobs for less money that these people won't do, because our society will just collapse, because we can't possibly make these people do work. So what is the alternative? We just have to bring in all of those people. Oh, by the way, they bring in lots of dependents as well, so they won't be net contributors either. It's a mad system. It is a very self-indulgent system for a society that has lost touch with reality, which is, throughout human history, if you don't work, you don't eat, you don't have shelter. That is actually the existence for still a lot of people in the world today. They understand it. Why are we engaged?
I know, and also we should absolutely be people who are able to work and able to contribute and pay tax, so that we can actually help the people who can't work, not people who won't work. I've always said, when you're hungry enough, you'll work. It's as simple as that. We need to start. I'm sorry. Is it local area? Here's the thing. You've got X number of weeks to get a job. Here's a job. If you don't want to take this job, no more benefits. It's really, really simple. I don't care if people end up on the streets. I really don't. I'm done with this now.
When I hear about backlogs for things like cancer treatment or people who can't get life-saving surgery through no fault of their own, any sense of sympathy that I may have had for people like this, it evaporates, because what business? You are effectively robbing state resources from those people, and I have no time for it whatsoever.
And it should be treated as immoral. And people say, there's a tiny level of benefit fraud. No, that's prosecutions. It's on a grand scale. Every person I know knows at least one person in their own family who is claiming benefits that they don't think they should have. In
2022, get this, the amount of fraud when it came to universal credit, when it came to benefits, was greater than tax evasion and avoidance in this country combined. When you hear these stats and you hear Labour going, well, it's the super rich that need to pay their fair share, I'm sorry, that is a staggering amount of money that the government is effectively just going, we can set that on fire, we don't care about it, because if we go after it, well, we don't want to appear mean.
Don't want to be nasty.
Whereas those toffs, who are not paying their tax.
Any politician who says to me that they're worried about hard-working families and doesn't tackle the non-working families doesn't mean what they're saying. No, let's also talk about crime figures. They came out in the last 45 minutes. These are the crime figures for the year ending March 2024. An estimated 8.8 million incidents of headline crime, apparently, in that year. Same number of homicides, so that's good. Some good news. That's where the good news pretty much ends. Knife crime up 4%. Firearms offences up 6%. Robbery up 8%. Shoplifting up, wait for it, 30%. 30%. And that even allows for the fact that most shoplifting offences aren't ever reported. Because shopkeepers don't even bother anymore. I mean, that tells you about yet another thing in the in tray for Keir Starmer. And again, stuff we've been talking about. Let's all stop pretending everything's fine. And bearing in mind, this comes as we've got this British soldier reportedly stabbed multiple times in broad daylight at Brompton Barracks. A reporter who's on the scene, we hope to hear from a little bit later in the show. Someone has been arrested. They're looking into whether was it a terror attack, or was someone deliberately targeted because they were a soldier. Eyewitness accounts, absolutely horrific. I mean, multiple stabbing, absolutely terrifying scenes. Very much echoes of Lee Rigby. And at the same time, we've got Anjem Chowdhury. He has been a hate preacher. He has been he's been convicted once again and will be sentenced to go back to jail. By the way, committing some more terror offences, hate preaching. After being released from jail early, of course he was, after the last lot. It does just feel that no one's got a grip in this country.
14 years of Conservative government.
Well, let's just go, well done.
I'd be more than happy to lay into the current government, which has been in place for a couple of weeks, but this is the result of a political party that had no interest in governing, had no interest in the core tenets of what it is to be Conservative. The fact that we have, so many... And this is the other thing, is the number of foreign criminals in this country who, when they are released after serving half of their sentences, are not deported. As you say, we're talking about all sorts of violent crime up, and we've been told for years, oh, no, crime is coming down. No, it's because it doesn't get reported. That is what everybody who lives in a major urban area and in the countryside as well, where you're even less likely to see a police officer. We only talk about the urban situation, but if you have a tractor stolen or your sheep are rustled, good luck.
Well, you're only going to report it for the crime number. I have my bag stolen outside a local supermarket a few weeks ago, and they've been circulated. I mean, I tracked down one of the guys involved with it because he had my AirPods, and my husband, I followed them.
High IQ
the tracker.
Criminal there.
I mean, exactly. Followed him down the street, found him in a McDonald's, and genuinely, confronted him and the other guy. They've got CCTV. It's been circulated around the place, but no one has recognised this guy. I'm sorry. I don't believe for a moment this is the first time this guy has either committed this crime or, and by the way, it's all on CCTV, but not thanks to the police, by the way. It's me and the actual crime.
Everybody else.
It's me talking to security guards at the supermarket and things like that. But I'm basically saying, I know you don't normally bother investigating silly things like someone's bag being stolen. I'm down 500 quid because it wouldn't cover the locks being changed. You know, I mean, even with insurance, the cost of replacing everything that you have, you know, the keys, the spare keys that, you know, you have and things like that, it's cost an absolute fortune. And you know, as there's said to be lots of emails because they're playing along, but you know, there's just a collective shrug. They're not going to get these guys. No. Nothing's going to happen, and they're going to do it again.
They're not incentivised actually to pursue criminals. Actually, there has not been a government in this country in some time that is prepared to do the right thing when it comes to upholding the law. And I'm afraid that means if the state has the monopoly on violence, do you know what that means? Actually going through people's doors, arresting them, deporting them. It means being a little bit nasty. The fact that we have sheep rustling as an endemic crime, again, in this country, everybody knows where they're going. Is anybody going to do anything about it? No.
Where do you, out of interest, if you steal, OK, someone steals my bag, you know, you can sell whatever's in there. I mean, I managed to stop the cards immediately and things like that. I don't know what was of any value other than the AirPods. The guy threw them away. That's what's the annoying. Not that I'd want them back after they'd been in his ears, looking at the state of this guy. But genuinely, you're in a situation where you're going like, OK, you sell that. You might be able to sell the bag or give the bag to some, I don't know, whatever it is. What do you do with sheep?
Indian restaurants, Pakistani restaurants.
Are you joking?
No, that's where it goes. That's where the majority of lambs and sheep are sold to in this country anyway. So if you steal them, you sell them to them, and you do it for slightly cheaper. That's where it goes. Everybody knows that's where it goes. Nobody's going to raid an Indian restaurant, though, to see if the meat that's already there is stolen.
How would you know?
Exactly. There's no incentive to find the abattoirs themselves, the illegal ones.
You learn something new every day on this show.
The abattoirs don't check. Why would they care? But everybody knows that's where it goes.
Call in if you've had your sheep rustled. I don't know. Sounds wrong. That sounds like a different crime entirely.